Magic the Gathering.
Magic, 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 I'm so magic.
Gathering magic.
Spend a lot of money on cards.
Playing cool cards with my friends.
Play it all. So magic.
We're all winners in the end.
News from the source.
From the source themselves.
Some Wizards news. And I think this is honestly going to be Luke's section
really?
today because it's all about the Marvel Secret Lair Super Drop that was just announced.
Yep.
And I'm not the biggest Marvel guy. I like the Avengers here and there.
You like the movies?
I like the occasional Iron Man movie, I guess.
Okay. Okay.
That's about the extent of my knowledge. But Luke, on the other hand, is kind of a big. In my show notes, I wrote Luke is the comic boy.
Yep.
So
That is accurate.
This is right in his wheelhouse. So I'm going to let him take the lead here.
No, for sure. So I kind of went in, I'll be honest. I went into this being like, oh, this is going to be bad. This is going to be cringy. Like this is a cash grab. But as I saw what they released here, I've changed my tune and I'm kind of excited.
Okay.
I've done
All
a
right.
180. I've done a 180. I'm kind of excited. Okay, yeah, it's like funny that they have like the Avengers Tower for like Soul Ring and stuff like that. Like that's fun. But I actually think this is really fun and flavorful. So like for instance, the one that got me so two things right off the bat got me excited. Number one, I love that all of the artifact Karn stuff is like Wakanda and Vibranium. I love that they've like one for one switched that out. So it's really fun. So like Karn's Bastion is now like the Wakanda skyscraper, which is, I mean, I don't know what Wakandan skyscraper that's not in the comics, but like, I mean, there's no like special skyscraper that I can think of that's like, oh, that's like a memorable location in the comics, but it's just kind of fun that, and it kind of looks like Karn's Bastion from the artwork. I like that. Also, I think Captain America's very, very well done.
Okay.
I think that he's extremely well done. I love the idea that for 3, you basically like throw an equipment at somebody, and then at the end of your, the beginning of your combat on your next turn, you can like reattach it for free. So he's just like chucking artifacts at people and then recatching them next turn. Like, I thought that was really flavorful.
Someone already figured out that I forget there's an equipment from the Assassin's Creed set.
Ew.
What's the ACR? It's like a big sword. Let me see here. Excalibur, because it's a 12 drop, but it costs X less to cast, where X is the total mana value of historic permanents you control, which is going to be like, this is basically going to be free in Captain America, and you fling it for 12 damage because its CMC is 12.
I love that.
So that's gonna be sick. The one thing that I thought was hilarious, I do love the Sigarda's Aid, Flawless Maneuver, and In the Trenches. These all feel super on flavor.
Yeah.
I just think it's hilarious that they took Sword of War and Peace and just made it Shield of War and Peace.
Yeah, that's
Like,
a little low.
I was like, I mean, it's fine. Like,
Yeah, that's a little low effort there. I won't lie to you.
yeah. But I think if they had to pick a sword, the Sword of War and Peace obviously flavorfully feels the most Captain America, and it also the effects are just good. Also, I don't know if you noticed this.
Yeah, hit me with it.
They rearranged the pips in his thing to be red, white, and blue.
Yeah, they did.
So, like, if you look up any other, I'm trying to think of what other Jeskai Ascendancy, it's blue, red, white is typically. So they just took the blue pip,
Moved it to the end.
moved it to the end for red, white, and blue. So that's
I love that.
clever. I love that.
I love that. I will say too. I'm not an Iron Man guy, but
Really,
I'm
that
not.
kind of surprises
I know.
me.
I'm
feel
not a
like
big.
He's
the
like
only
the
time
fan
I-
favorite.
Okay, the only time I've ever liked Iron Man in the comics is when he's like in like Secret War. He was like he put up his hands and he's like, "Listen, guys, this is all magic. Like I got nothing here. Like I'm a science man. I'm a technologist. Like I'm Elon Musk. There's nothing I can do to help here." Like that was kind of fun for him to admit that. Like that was like the only time I liked him.
Okay.
But no, I think so. They made him Is It,
Mm.
and I think that I don't think he should have been Is It. I think that he should have been either like Boros, like I'm saying flavor wise. I don't think he's Is It. I think they should have done Doctor Strange as the obvious Is It character.
You're thinking like spell slinging?
Yeah.
I think I agree with that maybe for Doctor Strange, but Iron Man to me is definitely maybe like add a white pip, but he definitely needs the blue because he's an artificer at heart, right?
I guess.
His whole thing is he makes gadgets and he's like,
Yeah.
he's an artificer, right? And like artificers are blue, like in magic. Would be my argument against your
I guess.
argument.
But no, I'd say like I think when I think of Iron Man, I think more of like him flying around and like shooting people with lasers. And I think of Is It, I think of more like arcane spell slingy. And so
Okay.
maybe add like a white pip there. But then again, Captain America's got the red, white, and blue.
Right.
So they couldn't give that to another.
Yeah, I just
Avengers
don't
character.
see how you make Iron Man without the blue because
He's kind of control-y, you know?
yeah, he's controlling, his temperament's controlling, and he's like an artificer. Like his whole thing is that he made his Iron Man suit.
Yeah.
So he's an artifact guy. So it's got to be blue to some regard here.
Okay, I guess.
Because imagine building an Iron Man deck without Urza.
I guess. Oh god, that's kind of crazy to think about. I actually didn't think about that.
Right?
Mixing and matching Iron Man with Urza. Ooh.
Yeah. Well, they feel very synonymous, or they feel like good kind of reflections of one another to some extent.
Yeah.
They're both kind of like hard-headed, like savants in artificing. So
You know what they'll probably do? They'll probably make Doctor Strange just like pure blue. Probably make him mono blue.
maybe. I guess you're this is your wheelhouse, so I'm gonna trust your judgment on this. My one point, I guess, against it is that
Or like blue white, maybe they'll make him. I don't know.
like a controlling, like a Zorius control type dude. Yeah. I guess I don't really know Doctor Strange that way, so
I guess we'll see. Also too, like if we scroll down more, I thought this was very random, but they went with the last two that they announced was Wolverine and Storm, and I was like, Storm, that's kind of random. But I mean, it's cool. I'm down with it. And yeah, I thought it was funny that they made her, you know, like green, blue, red. I would think of her as, honestly, like the red is kind of random. I would think of her more as green, blue.
okay. Not again to butt in here, but her name is literally Storm.
Yeah.
And red is like the storm color. So,
oh god,
much like how Iron Man is like an artificer,
I mean,
Storm not being storm centered would be insane.
yes. Okay, well,
Like-
I'm thinking of her as more like from the comics. Like she's like the hippie nudist that lives in Africa and like does her own thing.
Mhm.
She leads the X-Men for a while. She marries T'Challa. Like I don't know. I'm thinking of her more as like hippie earth water lady, not as like
Teamer is like that to a T. It's like all about elementals and like using the elements as we know them to like manipulate them in a way.
I guess I'm thinking of red as like angry, and I don't see her as angry.
Okay.
I don't see her as like wrathful or angry.
Okay.
But I don't know. I thought she looked really cool. Also, I like that they gave her a mohawk, her lightning bolt. She's got like the mohawk.
Oh, is that
It's
like a
fun.
thing?
Yeah,
at
it's like a
first?
thing from the comic.
Another gripe with this, I guess I don't really have any gripes with this, but the Jessica's Will art is literally just because they changed the name to Storm's Will, and they literally just photoshopped Storm into Jessica's Will.
Yeah.
Like it's the same exact art. Otherwise.
Also, I would not have put Storm as Jessica's Will. I would have put like Phoenix in there or like Jean Grey because it's more her exploding is more Jean Grey's thing. But
yeah. But again, I think if you're gonna package up Storm as like a commander or like a legendary creature to lead your commander deck, obviously Jessica's Will is a huge Storm card, and like
yeah.
Like that's kind of I do appreciate that they kind of went for that. Like Manamorphose, huge Storm card. Jessica's Will, Ice Storm has the name in it. Not that this card will be played that much. I think this is quote unquote the highest value reprint. It's like I don't think it's ever been reprinted before, so it's like effectively a reserve list card that for some reason they're
Here we are.
reprinting or whatever. I guess I don't really understand that, but yeah.
I feel like they're really playing into the her name is Storm theme.
Yeah, which I think is
fine.
cool. Like
It's
you're gonna have a Storm commander. Like, yeah, her name's fits the bill. So
yeah, it's fine. It's cool. But yeah, and yeah, Wolverine was cool. This is the last one they showed. I love that he can regenerate. That's very cool. His healing factor is like a mechanic.
oh, is that like a thing in the comics?
Yeah, Wolverine like has
Gotcha.
like a healing factor, and you know. So yeah, he's cool. I really like this. I love that he's red and green. It's perfect.
Yeah. No, I think of the ones that were revealed, this is the most cohesive.
Yeah.
Like this
definitely.
makes me like I look at this and I'm like I'm playing all these cards
Yep.
in my Wolverine deck and it's gonna be sick.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like this is definitely my favorite of the ones that they revealed so far. So
No, exactly. So okay, I don't maybe I missed it, but all secret layers.
Yep.
Are we getting like secret layer commander decks with these as well?
I don't know. They haven't
With
really
Marvel?
released. Yeah, well, Marvel they've contracted on for. I forget the exact logistics of this all, but apparently they contracted Marvel on for multiple years.
Oh wow.
So
Okay.
we're getting this is like the first of many, and then I
Yeah.
think they teased Spider-Man as potentially a set question
A
mark.
Spider-Man set.
If not a set, maybe just like a set of commander decks or something like
Okay.
that. So we'll definitely see secret or not secret layer, but like Marvel commander decks.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely, we're going to see them.
100%.
And I think we were speculating on this in a previous episode, but like a Marvel set, kind of similar to like Lord of the Rings,
Oh, okay.
makes a lot of sense, especially if they have them contracted on for multiple years.
Yeah.
What that says to me is they're testing the waters here with the secret layer. Then we'll maybe do a set of commander decks like Warhammer 40K. And then in 2026 or whatever, we'll get like a Marvel set.
Wow.
Like they did with
Okay.
Lord of the Rings. So that's kind of what I'm anticipating, but who knows? They haven't really told us a lot about it. So
Yeah. Okay, I guess we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, I was not going into this. I was not very excited for Marvel. I thought it would be kind of a cash grab Fortnite situation.
okay.
But I think this was actually tastefully and lovingly done, for the
Sweet.
most part. Yes, Shield of War and Peace was a little sus, but
Yeah, no, it's,
you know what?
it's fine. It's fine.
fine.
I think the one we maybe talked about least was Black Panther.
Oh yeah, Black Panther.
You mentioned the Karn's Bastion being the Wakandan skyscraper. Obviously, some good reprints with Heroic Intervention. Primal Vigor is now Bast's Blessing. I don't. Who is Bast? What's the lore there? Do you know?
Yeah, Bass is like the spirit guy that I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure that's like the spirit dude that like gives the Black Panthers their Black Panther powers.
Gotcha.
I'm pretty sure.
And then he's got to be token. So he's got Secure the Waste, which is basically just instant speed, pump out a ton of 1/1s. Yeah, Black Panther Wakandan King is really interesting too because he's like a land animation deck. Yeah. I don't know, kind of interesting. Secure the Waste feels a little out of place. Like I'm not exactly sure what
I
this
thought
is.
that was kind of
Is this a story thing, maybe? The flavor text reads, Bashenga was the first Black Panther, wise and fearless. He closed the great mound and formed a militia that would guard it against all intruders. So I guess the flavor text explains that Bashenga secured the wastes of the great mound and created a militia. So I guess maybe this is purely flavorful, but I don't really see
Probably.
it. I guess with Bass Blessing, double the tokens you create, and then with Black Panther, you double the +1/+1 counters on him. I don't know. I guess this is kind of a big picture thing. If you're gonna run Black Panther, Wakandan King as your commander, I don't know if you're exactly running Secure the Waste as well.
no,
So,
no, definitely not. But I know I think he's cool. I think he's right to be red or green and white. I think that's it's a nice combo for him that I agree with.
cool. So yeah, if you had to pick your favorite, you're also in agreement that's Wolverine. Or which would you pick?
I'm going Captain America.
Captain America. Okay.
Captain America.
All right. So we're gonna have to. I'll build a Wolverine.
I'll
best
build
there
Cap.
is,
America's ass.
and you'll build. The first Avenger.
Also, if we don't get a secret lair with like Chris Hemsworth as Thor, like the actual actors,
right? Like
as
how
these
they did
people,
with Dungeons and Dragons,
Dungeons and
or whatever.
Dragons.
Yeah.
If I can't,
Yeah.
we got Chris Pine in Dungeons and Dragons. I want Chris Hemsworth as Thor in the Magic the Gathering, in a Magic the Gathering Secret Lair Disney Marvel crossover.
What I want is Willem Dafoe as the Green Goblin.
Yeah,
that's what I want.
I want a Green Goblin Willem Dafoe deck so bad.
Yeah, I think that's what the people want. Of course, with Wizards, what we'll end up getting is who's the actor that plays Willem Dafoe's son? That then takes up.
Oh,
what's that guy's name?
Yeah, it's Franco, James Franco.
Yeah, James Franco. Well, that's what we'll end up with. Everyone's hoping for the Willem Dafoe Green Goblin. We'll end up with James Franco Green Goblin. That's what we're gonna end up with. So.
We could also get like Alfred Molina as like he's like the Doc Ock.
Oh yeah, that would be sick.
So that'd be kind of cool. But he's now like he's cashed out after that movie. He's like doing plays and stuff. Like he's
good for him.
I know he's done with movies. I think he's just doing like London theater musicals now. So he probably doesn't even know what Magic the Gathering is.
Probably not.
Probably not.
But yeah, I think that will kind of. Oh, you also the last thing from WotC is the Pixel Perfect Extra Life Secret Lair.
I'm a big fan of the Secret Lair, and I think more people should check it out. I think that the cards in it are a little mid. It's like lightning bolt, all that stuff. But I think the artwork is awesome. It's like basically like who's the one-eyed guy? Who's the one-eyed little character that all the people in Magic the Gathering like?
The Beholder.
No. It's like a little dude. Yeah, the little.
Oh, Fibblethip.
Fibble. Yeah, it's like him fighting Nicol Bolas, like in an RPG. Final Fantasy RPG.
And Ajani's like his Skippy or whatever from from Star Fox.
Star Fox, yeah. And it also goes towards a good cause. I don't know. I think it's fun. I think it's really cool. I'm gonna definitely buy the single of the Lightning Bolt.
Yeah, looks cool. Also, it's got a reprint of Fierce Guardianship. Obviously, the Mana Geyser's couple bucks. Lightning Bolt's like $1. Delayed Blast Fireball's like $1. So like you're not the reprint value is not here. Obviously, it's for charity.
It's for charity.
It goes to Extra Life, so that's for sure why you're picking this up. And then also just for the super dope Fierce Guardianship, which will probably this printing of it in particular will probably sit around $30. So
there you go.
Give money to charity, get a sweet Fierce Guardianship, Lightning Bolt, Mana Geyser, and Delayed Blast Fireball. So yeah, seems worth it to me as well. And I like that they're like, it's like a sequence of Fibblethip going through the level too. Yeah. It's like
his health goes down.
Yeah. Mana Geyser, he's like, as he's about to get to the boss room, he gets hit by a Mana Geyser. And in the top left of the card, you see he's at 3 health.
Yeah.
But then in Lightning Bolt, he's at 1.5.
I love it.
Because Nicol Bolas is casting the Lightning Bolt at him, but then he deflects it by casting Fierce Guardianship
and then
back at Nicol Bolas, and then the Delayed Blast Fireball hits Nicol Bolas and defeats him. So
I love it.
Really cool. And then the boss health bar also tanks too. Yeah.
I love it.
Very clever. I love it.
Yeah. I think this is the best Secret Lair, not of all time. But it's definitely up there.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think it's time for the main topic today.
Yeah, enough chatting. Let's get to it.
Enough gabbing. So standard legal commander. I don't know why I came up with this idea or thought. I think it was probably because I'm playing a lot of standard in Arena currently.
Yeah.
And then everything that's been going down in Commander lately, it just got me thinking about the ban list and how to approach building Commander differently. And I was like, you know what? What if we just built a Commander deck using exclusively cards that are legal in standard right now.
Yeah.
It's like a kind of a fun restriction, which I think Luke puts it. How do you put it? It's like restrictions, like allow for better art or something like that. How does the saying go?
Yeah. The best art is made with restrictions.
Yeah. So I don't know. It felt like kind of an interesting experiment, you could call it. So currently, the current standard rotation goes all the way back to Dominaria United, and then goes to Duskmourn currently. And then, I think standard currently now rotates every 3 years instead of 2. They just changed that last year.
This is like the first year of that 3-year cycle.
Right. So, it's less, I think maybe previously like building a commander deck and then having the cards rotate out every 2 years, maybe less enticing. But if you built a commander from Duskmourn, they'd be legal in your command zone in standard legal commander until summer of 2027. So, and I don't know about you, but I also like to rotate what commander decks I'm using. There are some decks that I'll build and then take apart, and obviously everyone has their staple pet decks that are they're going to stick around.
Yeah.
But it's fun to build new commanders as they come out, and sometimes you only keep them together for a few months or a year or two. So let's say you're really into Glarb, the Calamity's Augur, the frog commander from Bloomburrow. You could build him standard legal and just test him out for a few months and see how it goes. And there you go. So part of what inspired this idea was the conversation that Aaron Forsyth and Gavin Verhey had when they're talking about Wizards taking on Commander. And becoming the official governing body behind Commander with the dissolution of the RC and all the shenanigans that went down with the bans. They pointed to cards like Jeweled Lotus and Arcane Signet being flawed designs in that they are Commander staples, right? Like if you have access to them, they go in every Commander deck. And what's interesting about standard legal Commander is you don't have access to Sol Ring. You don't have access to Arcane Signet. So you're kind of forced to work around and work with, we'll get into the decks we built because we each built a standard legal Commander deck, and you have to work with the jank that's given to you. For example, I built a deck that has green, and instead of having all your 1 mana dorks, having access to your Elvish Mystic, your Llanowar Elves, all those, I'm running they're all 2 mana dorks. Just 100% worse. Right? But that's part of it. You have to it allows this kind of interesting dynamic to deck building where you have to work with what you're given, right? Work with the restriction of building within the standard legal climate, I guess you could call it.
And it's funny too because in things like the dollar bulk or Pauper, you're limited by, you can play cards from any generation of Magic, but it's got to be a common. And this is a different type of limitation where you can play super crazy insane cards. You can play I saw Braids Arisen Nightmare. You can play that. That's totally fine. In this format. But you can't play, any of the orchards or command tower, so your mana fixing might not work in your favor, or even Swift Boots. There's no protection. There's no.
But there are alternatives, right?
There are, yes.
So instead of Swift Foot Boots, you play Lava Spur Boots, which came out in OTJ. Instead of your exotic orchard, you play with the what's it called? Plaza of Heroes. Not exactly a 1-to-1 comparison, but you that. It's kind of the point. It's you don't have access to these super good commander cards, but you find ones that are effectively replacements, right?
They might not be as efficient, but there are replacements typically for what you're looking for.
Right. Obviously, I have it in my notes. Jewel Lotus and Dockside are mega banned.
Yes.
I think that's another thought is these cards that, I was just saying, were kind of broke the format of Commander are already banned anyways, but you don't even have to think about them when you're building standard legal Commander.
Cards so nice they ban them twice.
Right. And you're working off of a banned list, and not even so much a banned list, but just you're playing with a rotating format So whatever card pool's legal in that format, you don't even have to think about the ban list. You're just like,
Yep.
I'm just working with what I've been given. Don't have to worry about bans. Just kind of go with the flow and builds, totally like, and you'll see these decks. We'll put both lists of these decks in the episode description. They're both extremely good. And they're both pretty random.
Yes.
For being kind of random commanders, they're totally like, you could totally bring them to sit down with like a regular commander pod.
And no one would know.
No one would know. They'd just be like, oh, you're playing with a bunch of cool new cards. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So
also something else to bring up too about standard is that, so I'm not a standard player. You are one from playing on Arena, but it's been really fun and like researching for this episode. I had a lot of fun reading like people on Reddit and like other forums and stuff like that. I don't know what it is, but it feels like standard is way more welcoming and like nice to the community versus like Commander or like other formats.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think it's funny to think that standard is the premier format that Wizards quote unquote caters to. I mean, obviously we know it's Commander, but that's what's making the money. But like standard is supposed to be,
right, kind of first and foremost.
That's
for design.
For design.
Guess.
Yes, exactly. And that's like what they want to have everybody play. But it's in recent times it's become not the most popular. Commander is way more popular.
Sure.
Or things too like Legacy and stuff are probably even more popular than. I mean, I would say maybe Legacy is more popular than Standard.
I think Legacy's maybe more niche. I think it's obviously
or Modern. I mean, sorry, Modern is probably more popular.
Yeah, from a competitive perspective, for sure.
Okay.
It is interesting watching the different pro tours kind of specialize in different formats. I think some of them are very draft centered, some of them are modern focused, others are like standard focused. Obviously, different events, so a lot of the players have to play their different decks, but it varies from tournament to tournament what kind of formats are most primarily featured. And I always enjoy watching pro tour standard more than anything else because, like you said, it's like to some extent it feels a little bit more welcoming, and it's also it's a format where all of the most current cards are being played, meaning the cards that we have all collectively cared about most, just in terms of product being released, opening that product and seeing the physical cards. Like there's so many cards in Legacy or even Modern that people aren't like actively like playing with in casual formats. Or I guess I should say people aren't engaging with them as nearly as much as each brand new limited set that comes out.
Yeah.
Brand new standard set that comes out, I should say. So it's just cool to see cards from within the last 3 years. All of them, most players will recognize, right?
Yeah.
So in that sense, it feels the most welcoming or accessible because you're hyper familiar with the cards that you see as you open them or as the sets get revealed and spoiled and all this stuff. They're the most familiar cards, I guess, simply put.
No, for sure.
Yeah, there's a couple things about, I guess, standard legal Commander and how viable, I guess, it is to like build with these cards. Like I said, you can a lot of these cards aren't going to be rotated out until the summer of 2025.
Yeah.
That being Dominaria United, A Brothers War, Phyrexia All Will Be One, and March of the Machine. So you pretty much have a whole year, and that's just stuff at like the very back end, right?
Yeah. What do you think you're gonna lose when those sets go out? Like I'm saying, like
that's interesting. That's an interesting thought.
In a year from now, like what decks now are not gonna be
well,
viable?
the heaviest.
Because it sounds like artifacts to me are gonna be the ones that go.
Right, Brothers War, the Phyrexians. Those are some of the most powerful cards. That is a really interesting question. You're saying specifically for just like standard, not even just standard Commander?
Well, I mean both, because same rule set. But yeah, like what? Yeah, what do you think we're gonna lose? Because I was like looking when I was making this deck. I was looking through those sets, and
right,
it sounds like we're gonna lose a lot of high power artifacts. Is kind of what I see. And also there are some crazy There are some like high powered like is it and black and white people. So like for instance like that Ellis Il Car sadistic pilgrim is kind of become a what's the word? Where everybody gets hurt. What's the aristocrat. But yeah, that's like he's a kind of a staple in aristocrat style.
Sure. So you're thinking for like commander effects.
Yeah, for commander effects. Or third path, like iconoclast is another one where it's like it's the guy with like the scythe that's like pointing forward. And that's the thing that just says like every time you cast like a non-creature spell, you make a token.
Right. Okay.
And it's like 2 mana. It's very cheap.
Gotcha.
So we're gonna like lose out on like artifact staples.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are two. Yeah, those definitely are 2 cards in Commander that I think probably pretty popular in a lot of EDH decks.
Yeah. Who knows? It's probably not about standard, itself.
Yeah, just from like the little bit of standard I've engaged with, obviously Shieldred being rotated out is going to be. It's not going to like super impact the format, but Shieldred just being as powerful as she is going to bring a lot of black decks down a peg. Roaming Throne for the if we're talking about standard legal commander, Roaming Throne just being it's one of the most busted.
Yep.
I guess that's LCI though. So this is that'll stick around. If we're talking just cards that are gonna rotate out standard rotate out of standard in summer of 2025 from the sets that I mentioned earlier, there aren't a ton that come to mind actually. I think there's a set of Pain lands that were released in March of the Machine or Brothers War. I think they're Brothers War actually. All the Pain lands got reprinted. So that's going to be tough for fixing, but I think we just got all these. Yeah, all the Pain lands were reprinted in Brothers War. So it's going to be sad to see those go, but we've got these new like pseudo dual lands from Duskmourn that came out that I think are going to be maybe not better, but yeah, they're going to basically effectively take that same slot in those decks. So we don't have to worry about lands being impacted too much because I have a feeling that the next set after Foundations will complete the full set of these dual lands because Duskmourn did 5, and so this next set will do the other 5 of the color pairings. So
okay,
that's typically how these land cycles release. They don't drop all 10 all at once. It's usually like one set will get 5, and then another set down the road will get the other 5, usually kind of back to back. So, which is exactly what happened with Brothers War got half of them, and then Dominaria United got the other half of the Paint lands. Mana base wise, probably not like super impacted.
No,
I think it's really just the Phyrexians.
Yeah, Trixa.
Seeing those go is going to feel kind of bad, but
are you sad to see them go?
I'm like not like
I'm not.
Flavor wise. I don't really like the Phyrexians, but they are extremely powerful, so I do like casting them. Obviously,
yeah.
But yeah, just scrolling through kind of the more expensive cards that are legal in Commander right now. There's not a ton that's going to impact the standard format.
No,
once they're rotated out in summer of 2025. So again, if you're building a standard legal Commander deck, it's going to be good for like at least a year, if not more.
Yeah, you got time, guys. You have time. Get in here.
Yeah, get in here. Join us on this journey. But yeah, I think maybe a good start would just be to jump into the decks we built.
Yeah.
And kind of talk through some of the cards we like within them, some cards we think are really strong in the standard legal Commander format that we're creating right now, I guess. So yeah, I'll let you take it away, Luke.
Yeah, so my so the commander I chose to go with came from Thunder Junction, and it's Bruse Tarl, Roving Rancher. And he's a for 2 and a red and a white. His ability says oxen you control have double strike. And then when Bruse Tarl, Roving Rancher enters the battlefield or attacks, exile the top card of your library. If it's a land, create a 2/2 white ox creature token. Otherwise, you may cast it until the end of your next turn. So kind of my idea with this deck, first of all, the artwork is amazing. I saw that.
He is very cool.
Yeah, I saw this artwork like when the set came out, and I was like, oh, I kind of want to build him. So this was a great opportunity to do that. And yeah, so basically what I'm trying to do with him is that I'm trying to blink him in and out, to, because it says whenever he enters the battlefield, and exile the top, card, hoping to hit a land, and then also to aid with that, I have a lot of like +1/+1 cards, or like a lot of like I have a couple like token doublers in there as well, so that hopefully I can maximize and get double the amount of tokens. Yeah, so that's kind of my attitude. Also, fun story. So he's got a little thing in here that says oxen you have double strike. Well, there's only one oxen creature that's standard legal right now, and that's Holy Cow.
I love it.
Which is
I love it.
a common card that's for 2 and white. It's just a Ox Angel that has flash and flying. It says when it enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life and scry 1. So that scrying could help you actually low key for this ability, because you can, if it's not a land and you want to blink him right after you play Holy Cow, you can maybe hit that land drop that you need to hit. But yeah, so that's kind of his whole idea, is just to make a bunch of Ox tokens that have double strike. And so yeah, so it's kind of some notable cards in the deck here. So for starters, we were talking about Phyrexians that are going to go into extinction. Mordrak Glory Dominus is one of the Phyrexian horrors that has very metal artwork, and it's a legendary creature that says if one or more tokens would be created under your control, twice that many of those tokens are created instead. And then you can sacrifice 2 of those artifacts or creatures, and you can put an indestructible counter on the creature, on Mordrak Glory Dominus. So that's like, it's basically a doubling season. Or not doubling season, it's a... what's the other doubling season? That's
are you thinking like, well, there's Primal Vigor.
Primal Vigor.
Yeah. And I also, full transparency, I helped Luke build this deck.
Yes, he did.
So I saw you added Mondrak.
Yeah.
And so I immediately picked up what you were putting down a little bit. I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be a tokens deck.
Yeah.
And also with Bruse Tarl being ETB, this is like, it enters the battlefield. So like almost all of your creatures that I added are like ETB triggers.
Okay.
And so we've got, we also added Elish Norn, the new one, Mother Machines, that is basically just a Panharmonicon. It's 5 mana, 4/7 with Vigilance. If a permanent entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, it triggers a second time. And then I also added, where is she? Delny, Streetwise Lookout.
Yep.
And the key ability here is if an ability of a trigger you control with power 2 or less triggers, that ability triggers a second time. So there are a lot of creatures in here that are power 2 that have ETB triggers, so that are going to be basically doubled by Delny, doubled by Elish Norn again, and then if they create tokens or what have you, will then be doubled again by Mondrak. So it's like,
yeah,
that's what the whole thing we're focused on, is pumping creatures, Bruse Tarl and his oxen being first and foremost.
Yep.
So it's actually like a pretty sick deck as I was like getting into it.
Yeah.
One of my favorite cards in this deck is basically just like bad Sun Titan. His name is Ogre Chitterlord.
Let's go.
He's for 4 red and a red. You get a 6/5 menace Ogre Warrior. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, create 2 1/1 black rat creature tokens with this creature can't block. Then if you control 5 or more rats, each rat you control gets +2/+0 until end of turn.
That's so good.
So this is like an oxen and various other types of tokens deck, essentially. Yeah. You want to go as wide as physically possible, and then throw down your Moonshaker. And then also, this was a card I wanted to point out to you that you're going to love for this deck in particular. It's from Duskmourn.
Okay, interesting.
It's one of the new room cards.
Okay.
It's Dollmaker Shop and Porcelain Gallery. The Dollmaker Shop is a 2-mana enchantment room. Whenever one or more non-toy creatures you control attack a player, create a 1/1 white toy artifact creature token. So it's a token generator on one half of the card. And then the second half is the win con. For 6 mana, Porcelain Gallery, creatures you control have base power and toughness equal to the number of creatures you control.
So good. That's death.
Yeah, it's crazy, dude. That is an insane effect. So yeah, pretty much we're just creating all the tokens we physically can and then pumping them up with either Porcelain Gallery or Moonshaker Cavalry.
All this, guys, without a soul ring.
Yeah, which is interesting because, like, how do we ramp into these spells?
You got to get creative.
Gotta get creative.
You got to get creative. That's the best way. Also, too, you can get a lot of help too from like from like treasure tokens and stuff like that. You know, like there's like Collector's Vault, which is kind of a newer token generator.
Have you read the card Generous Plunderer at all, Luke?
Generous Plunderer.
This card is probably one of my favorite cards from the Big Score, which was the like subset of Outlaws of Thunder Junction. I think all of the Big Score might be my favorite set of the year.
Wow.
All those cards are cool. Like there's not an uncool card in the Big Score. And I actually recently got to play this in Cube. And this card just rules. It's a 2/2 for 2 with Menace, Human Rogue. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may create a treasure token. When you do, target opponent creates a tapped treasure token. And then whenever Generous Plunderer attacks, it deals damage to defending player equal to the number of artifacts they control. And in Commander, people usually have a ton of artifacts. So, plus this gives us, obviously giving your opponent a treasure token is bad, but it's a tapped treasure token, so they can't even use it this turn cycle.
Yeah.
And plus, they're going to be playing their mana rocks. They're going to be generating treasures of their own.
Yep.
This is just a cool card.
And it's a 2-drop.
It's 2-drop. That is like effectively, it's ramp. I mean, even if you don't attack with it, if you don't ever attack with it, it's giving you a treasure every turn. So,
heck yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you want to kind of point to in this list?
I kind of like just some of the thematic things, like some of the like bovine intervention, because swords and Path of Exile are not legal in Standard, so you have to get creative with it. So your removal is bovine intervention, and also it fits with the ox theme. I thought that was kind of funny. Another one too was this card's actually like I see this in a lot of decks now, but the Getaway Glamour one, which is it's like one of the spree cards, and it lets you it has a flicker effect, but then also it has destruction too. You can I don't know. I like these spree cards. I hope that these come back where you pay a little extra and you can do as many things as you want.
Yeah, pick and choose a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a modal card. Modal card with different costs. Yeah. They're all pretty good.
So yeah, no, I'm I think this is gonna be a fun deck.
I'll point to just like one more card, maybe. Yeah. I'll point to 2 more cards. Sure. One that I think is kind of like this. One of the staples of this deck is Nahiri's Resolve. It's basically a teleportation circle / Conjurer's Closet that also gives your creatures +1/+0 in haste. And it's not just like this card is cracked, actually. I mean, it's 5 mana. So it's a 5 mana enchantment that gives your creatures +1/+0 and haste. But at the beginning of your end step, you can exile any number of non-token artifacts or creatures you control and return them back to the battlefield at the beginning of your next upkeep. So that's kind of why it's not fully a Conjurer's Closet, because if you blink everything, you have to wait until your upkeep for them to come back.
Yeah.
So pretty risky, but if you're in a good position or you don't feel like someone's going to pressure you, you can Nahiri's Resolve your entire board, and then during your upkeep, just boom, everything hits the table again. You get all the triggers. You can stack them how you want to.
Yeah.
Those are some of my favorite plays while playing Flicker decks, is just like, hey, let's exile my entire board, bring it all back in at once, and have all the triggers hit the stack in the way I want them to, and just pop off all in one big kind of explosive way. You can play into this Nahiri's resolve by casting something like Dawn's Truce, which isn't quite Teferi's protection, but it's pretty dang similar.
Yeah. I'm seeing this in a lot of decks right now.
Yeah, it doesn't phase. The issue is it doesn't phase you out, but like it gives you permanence. You and permanence hexproof until end of turn, and then it also has gift a card. And if you gift that card, your stuff gets indestructible. So I don't know. There are ways like once you've pumped all your tokens out onto the board, with Nahiri's Resolve, you exile all your non-token stuff, which leaves you kind of open. But as long as you have some of these tokens you've created, you can block with them. And then Dawn's Truce, giving them all indestructible, or if someone if someone wraths the board or attacks you or tries to like board wipe, like just Dawn's Truce, you're good to go. Everything hits the board in the beginning of your next end step, and you're off to the races. So there's some it's a pretty like interactive deck in a way you want Flicker decks to be. And then my last card I want to point out is Chainsaw, because what is better than creating a bunch of Ox tokens, pumping them up, and then giving one of them a chainsaw? Or like giving Holy Cow a chainsaw.
I love it.
Like that's just the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
So,
and thematically it fits. I'm just kidding. It doesn't. Yeah. But it's cool though.
It doesn't. I just love the mental image of either giving Holy Cow or even just Bruse Tarl, this dude who's like he's riding an ox.
Yeah.
And he'll just be wielding a giant chainsaw.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
All right. Any final thoughts on your Flicker deck here?
No final thoughts, but yeah, I will say this is my first venture into Flicker, and it's kind of a weird concept. It's not something I'm used to, but I think this could be fun.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm a big Flicker guy. Got a couple Flicker decks. My mono white Flicker deck being like my baby. That's my Preston the Vanisher deck is my forever deck. I also have a Genku. What is, I forget, but it's the Genku from Modern Horizons 3. I built a Flicker deck around him. But yeah, I'm a big Flicker guy.
You're a Flicker man.
I'm a Flicker man, and this is a really kind of interesting approach. Like Boros Flicker isn't
not what most people do.
Yeah, and I don't know, it turned out pretty sweet. So,
and also just like all else fails, just have him swing out.
Mm-hmm.
Have Bruse swing out and get the effect going. So, yeah, big fan.
Cool.
All right, what do you got?
So my deck is Helga, Skittish, Seer.
Also, you are so safe with this deck. You can play it for 3 more years.
Oh, because
because it's from one of the newer sets.
Right. Yeah. So my deck is Helga, Skittish, Seer. She's got a lot of text on her, so we're gonna walk through this. Yeah,
it's a book.
It seems like a book, but it actually is just. This is like the most mono green Bant deck of all time.
Okay.
So Helga, Skittish, Seer is a 1/3 legendary frog druid for Bant. So 1 green, 1 white, 1 blue. And her effect is whenever you cast a creature spell with mana value 4 or greater, you draw a card, gain 1 life, and put a +1/+1 counter on Helga, Skittish, Seer.
Okay.
You can also tap Helga to add X mana of any one color, where X is Helga's power, and then you can spend that mana only on creature spells with mana value 4 or greater, or on creature spells with X in their mana cost.
Interesting.
So this is like about as creature focused as you can go. And being in Bant colors, it allows you access to some pretty interesting spells in Standard right now. I think that's one of my recommendations is if you plan on building a Standard legal commander, even though we were talking earlier about how the fixing isn't as perfect as in just regular commander, like obviously you can't run dual lands, you can't run your fetch lands and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You can still build a really comprehensive and really like strong land base. Just with standard legal lands. Like you've got the pain lands, you've got the fast lands, you've got these new effectively dual lands from Duskmourn. You've got honestly both Evolving Wilds and both Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse are legal in standard right now.
Yep.
You've got Escape Tunnel, which came out in Karlov Manor, which is just another one of those.
It's basically Rogue.
You've got Fabled Passage, which became legal in standard again in Bloomborough. So you've got like all of like your classic basic land fetching, fixing lands, and then pain lands and fast lands and surveil lands. So honestly, just some really effective like land types that we see play in Commander anyways.
Yeah.
So going 3 colors isn't a death sentence. There are some really powerful untapped dual lands in standard right now. So you can totally go with a 3-color deck, and then it opens you up to just that many more powerful cards in standard right now. So,
yeah. Let's go.
Yeah, definitely try to go at least 2 colors, if not 3. I think there's only one 4-mana commander, and it's Atraxa.
It's Atraxa, yeah.
So you can go Atraxa if you want to be...
If you're feeling saucy, go for it.
Feeling saucy. I think Joda, if you're going 5-color, you can do Joda. But yeah, pick something 3-color. And that's the other thing is it seems like with each set, there are more and more, obviously, commander-focused cards that enter standard. Like Helga doesn't see any standard play, really.
No.
But was built as like, hey, here's a commander that you can build.
Yeah, why not?
So there are a ton of really, really great 3-color commanders in standard legal commander.
Yeah.
Anyways, so we've got Helga. That's what we're cooking with. And I'll scroll down here so you can see 69% of my cards are just green cards.
I love it.
Because, I mean, if you're...
I'm obviously here for it.
If we're casting solely mana value 4 greater creatures...
All green.
They have to be green.
Yeah.
That's just the rules. Them's the rules.
You think blue's doing that? Come on. Get out of here.
Honestly, there's like a couple. In fact, let's point those out first. We'll point out the blue and white creatures that are kind of matter.
Just get them out of the way.
We'll get them out of the way, and they're actually some of like the better ones.
Oh, also too, for the audience, there are 38 creatures in this deck.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Continue.
Had to do it.
Yeah.
I think I've got 38 lands and 38 creatures, and who cares about the rest?
Everything else, no one gives a shit.
So yeah, the kind of bigger the bigger blue and white creatures in this deck are going to be obviously Moonshaker Cavalry. You got to have it. It's just like a win con for standard legal creatures. Obviously in Luke's deck, it was creature tokens, that's where Moonshaker Cavalry really sings. But if you're running 38 creatures,
it's the same thing.
It'll still get the job done. It's not quite as good as in a token deck, but with all your huge mono green trample things you're going to have on board anyways, Moonshaker Cavalry is almost just as powerful in this deck. So that's our big white one. As far as blue goes, we've got a new one from Duskmourn. We've got Overlord of the Flood Pits. Have you looked at any of these Overlords yet, Luke?
No, I haven't.
So yeah, all of these Overlords from Duskmourn have instead of suspend, they have impending. Suspend, I think you take the time counter off in your upkeep. Impending, you take it out in your end step, which it's not ideal, but it feels very similar. It plays very similarly to suspend.
Okay, gotcha.
So even though this is a 5-mana creature, you can cast it for 3 earlier on, and then just add the time counter. So it basically puts it on
4 turns.
technically 3 turns, because you're casting this and you take a counter off in your end step.
Okay.
So, but yeah, it's basically 4 turns, because taking it off in the end step of your 4th turn, it doesn't really matter, right? It's just it'll enter, and then a lot of these have enters effects, right?
Wait, here's a weird question. Can this be negatively affected by proliferate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
which is why suspend but I mean, proliferate isn't that prevalent in Commander anyways. There are certain decks that really lean into it, and if you're playing against those decks, feels bad, but
how often does that happen?
Not very often.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think these cards are great. Overlord of the Flood Pits is the blue one. There's one for each color. It's a 5-mana 5/3 with flying and impending 4 for 3 mana. And then whenever it enters or attacks, you draw 2 cards and discard a card. So this is a really powerful draw engine in this deck that is also above that 4 mana cost that Helga is looking for. Bonnie Paul, Clear Cutter. I don't know if you've seen this card, Luke, but
yeah, I've seen that card.
It's 6 mana, 6/5 with reach. When she ETBs, you create Bow, a legendary blue ox creature token with this creature's power and toughness are equal to the number of lands you control, which in this deck there's a ton of land tutoring and stuff like that. So Bow is gonna hit the battlefield with at least 6 power toughness, which is solid, if not more. And then whenever you attack, you get to draw a card and put a land card from your hand or graveyard onto the battlefield. So just good ramp, good draw, and it's also something that triggers Helga.
I love too these abilities, or like I love these cards where like they hit, but like really the token that comes with them is like the main star of the show. You know, like a Minsk and Boo. Like I like this.
Yeah, cool card. It's a cool card that works really well in this deck. I think I kind of want to point, before we get any further, I want to point to some cards that also lean into this mana value 4 or greater. A couple of my favorites are Outcast Trailblazer, which is a 3 mana 4/2. When it enters the battlefield, you add 1 mana of any color. And then whenever another creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, you draw a card. It also has Plot 3, which is really, really, really good. I love any plot card. They all have really unique effects and like applications, and just giving that to a creature allows it to be a little bit more evasive and also hit the battlefield when you need it to ramp you into a big spell and also draw off that big creature spell. So this is one of my favorite cards in the deck. It's effectively a Beast Whisperer for 3 mana that also ramps you. So it's really, really solid. Tribute of the World Tree is also a similar thing. For 3 mana. It's an enchantment that when a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you get to draw a card if its power is 3 or greater. Otherwise, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. So,
Mono green staple.
Yeah, you just draw a card every time you cast a creature, basically. So, really, really good. As far as X spells go, one of my favorites is the Goose Mother. This is a card
Yeah, you were excited about this card.
Yeah, I remember when Wilds of Eldraine was previewed, I saw this and I was like, I have to figure out some way of making this card work, and I've not been able to do that because it's not as good as we were all hoping. When we first saw this art piece in the spoiler or whatever, we were like, what is this? This is going to be crazy.
It's going to be broken.
And the Goose Mother is for X and Simic. So X, a green and a blue. You get a 2/2 Flying Bird Hydra. And the Goose Mother enters with X +1/+1 counters on it. And then when it enters, you also get half of X food tokens rounded up. And whenever it attacks, you get to sack a food, and if you do, draw a card. So it's just a really cool, evasive threat that also gives you food tokens that you can use to draw. So it's like a lot of applications to it. Obviously, casting this with Helga, you get to draw cards off Helga. If we've got the Archdruid Charm on board, you draw off that. If you've got the Outcast or Trailblazer on board, you draw a card off that. Another card that pairs well with the Goose Mother is Bristlebud Farmer, which is another one of my current favorite cards in Standard. And it's from, who guessed it, Big Score. Its stat line just immediately piques my interest, right? It's a 4 mana 5/5 with Trample. Magic the Gathering in 2024, ladies and gentlemen, because not only is it a 5/5 with Trample for 4, it also enters with 2 food tokens.
Yep.
And whenever Bristlebud Farmer attacks, you can sack a food to mill 3 cards and return a card milled among them, a permanent card among them, to your hand. So it just synergizes well with Goose Mother. I know it's a single card interaction. It's not crazy, but it's still something. And this card alone is just a house in this deck. So another card I'm pretty excited about. As far as kind of the top end cards, we've got Surik and Goreclaw. This is the other win con outside of Moonshaker Cavalry. It's a 6 mana 6/5 trampling human bear. That also gives all your other creatures trample as well. And then whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on it, and it gains haste.
Yeah.
So this card just like, it makes all these big stompy threats immediately an even bigger, stompier threat the moment they hit the table. So pretty high on this card.
I've started building this in normal EDH a couple times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For a mono green card, it's got everything you'd ever want.
Exactly.
It's honestly, this is like the Luke card.
Yeah, this is green in a nutshell in one card.
Is this in Yorvo? This
Yeah.
feels like a Yorvo card.
I think so.
Yeah. Just give stuff +1/+1 counters, trample, and haste. Luke's there. He's all
we're
in.
there, baby. And the artwork is cool.
And the artwork is cool. We've also, I had to put in, you guessed it, another big scorecard.
Gotta love it.
Vaultborn Tyrant, probably the most busted green creature we've seen in a long, long time. It's a 7-mana 6/6 with trample. Whenever it or another creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 3 life and draw a card. Again, this whole deck is creatures with power 4 or greater. So the amount of draw engines I built into this deck is insane, considering it's only standard legal cards.
Pretty impressive, actually.
And then when it dies, if it's not a token, you create a token copy of it. Like, what is this card? This card is like just ridiculous. It's the most ridiculous green card I've ever seen. And it's just amazing. So of course,
that's why it's $30.
That's why it's a $30 card, because it's just ridiculous. Again, shout out to the big score. Just banger after banger.
Which if you remember, was supposed to be its own like aftermath set.
Yeah, I think they were like starting on an aftermath, and they were like, well, we don't know, that didn't work, so we have to figure something else out.
We'll get creative here.
But yeah, super killer. And then I think the last card I really want to point to here, again, the links to these deck lists in Moxfield are in the episode description. So if you want to see all the cards and check out these standard legal only decks, go check them out, because they were a ton of fun to build.
Oh yeah.
And they're honestly filled with just like a ton of really, really powerful cards.
Yeah.
And just regular Commander. Like, you start to realize just how broken Magic is getting.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the cards we'd seen Commander anyways are just
also too,
they're just
guys,
in standard.
These decks are pricey. These are like $500-$600 decks.
Yeah,
if you were gonna make them in paper.
Yeah, I think 400's probably. I think your deck was about 420.
Oh, mine's 600.
That's got to be Card Kingdom.
Yes, Card Kingdom.
Yeah. See, TCG, I think yours is about 420.
Okay.
PCG, mine's about 460. And again, I kind of juiced these.
Yeah.
I wouldn't skimp on the lands. I never skimp on lands anyways.
I always do.
Just proxy them. You want to have the most optimal mana base. That's a whole other episode, though, I think.
Yeah.
It's us talking lands. I could talk about land. I think the first thing I do whenever I build a deck, and the thing I'm most excited about when building a Commander deck, is just going and like building out my mana base right away.
Really?
Yeah. It's the before I put a single creature, a single actual spell in my deck, is I pick my Commander. I'm like, cool, this is awesome. And then I go find all the lands I want.
See, I go Commander first, like pick who you want to build, and then I go right to the artifacts.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, you know what? Different strokes for different folks,
Yeah, different approaches, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm just obsessed with getting my land base as strong as it physically can be immediately. And then finding lands that synergize with what my commander's trying to accomplish. So
yeah.
And then I'll just throw like one of each basic in, and then after I've built my, the rest of my deck, I'll go in and fix the ratios and add extra duels or drop duels of certain color combos, and then plus and minus the basics to get to where I want to be.
Oh heck yeah.
Yeah, anyways, the last card I wanted to point to was, like I mentioned earlier, there aren't a lot of good mana dorks in Standard right now, which is going to change when Foundations drops next month. And I also learned
that'll have the elves in them.
They already previewed Llanowar Elves.
Perfect.
One of the classic mana dork of all time. Right. But apparently it's going to be standard legal until 2029.
That's incredible.
So it's an evergreen standard set. So it's, true to its name, it's going to be the foundation of standard for the next 4 years which is
Yeah.
crazy. I don't think they've ever done anything like that. So I'm really curious, and like makes me a little anxious that if there are some busted cards, they're gonna have to really focus on the ban list. And honestly, if this set like flops and it pushes decks in a certain direction, or it like, I don't think it will. I think core sets in general, they've been really good about balancing, and it basically just gives the like meat and potatoes to like decks, right? It's literally going to be all the stepping stones, and I hope they lean into lands like we were just talking about. I hope that we get some really strong lands that we'll see in standard for the next 4 years, because then we don't have to worry about the pain lands rotating out. We don't have to worry about surveil lands rotating out. We'll just have strong stepping stones for building decks for the next 4 years. But I do worry that like maybe they'll print in some like busted, kind of like we were talking about Shieldred earlier, a card to like that extent where it's just like, oh, well, I'm playing against a black deck. I'm going to have to worry about new Shieldred for the next 4 years.
Yeah.
So, and if it's not egregious, they're probably not going to ban it, right?
Nope.
So that's my one worry, is that, with previous core sets, they've only been legal for 2 years. This is a core set that's going to be legal for 4 years, 4 whole years. And we're really in this place where we want standard to thrive and become as healthy as it can be, because it's been struggling the last couple of years. And for them to print a set that's going to be legal in it for 4 whole years, we don't want it to feel stagnant. You don't want the 4-year legal set to stagnate the format that's already struggling to keep up, and you're really trying to like make healthy again.
Yeah.
However, I will say the fact that they're even making a Foundations set like this, I think it's a good sign, and I'm really, really hopeful on this set. It will make or break standard moving forward, though. So, I've got high hopes.
No, me too. And I think a positive of the set as well is that it'll kind of give some breathing room to the core sets that come out, in that, like, so for instance, you said like there's only one mana dork, right now, and that's standard legal. And so now they don't have to worry about adding a mana dork to another set because it's in Foundations.
Right.
It kind of gives them a little bit of breathing room. They can get a little more creative with the core sets.
Sure.
Knowing that the foundation is already laid.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah. Obviously, Llanowar Elves is going to see a huge resurgence, and it's here to stay for the next 4 years. So get used to green being good again, because
be here forever, baby.
I think green has really struggled in standard, and so it's cool to just boom. Let's give green the most powerful ramp spell in standard.
Yeah.
Just for the next 4 years. Like, why not?
have at it, boys.
So yeah, I'm really, really excited for Foundations. I think it's gonna really shape the standard format and other rotating formats moving forward. So
agreed.
We'll see. We'll do a huge episode on that.
Definitely.
We'll definitely do a whole Foundations.
And I think you and I
full spoiler episode on that.
No, definitely. And I think you and I are also probably going to be buying a lot of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely getting at least a booster box of it, and then a ton of singles depending on what comes out. I don't know if I'm going to start playing standard and paper anytime soon, so we'll have to see what it looks like for Eternal formats as well. I mean, for me, buying cards in paper, it's either for Commander or Legacy. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll play it by ear.
But yeah, the last card I wanted to point out
yes,
before we got
back to
on
that.
this huge tangent is a mana dork that I had to work with here, right?
Okay.
So I think I've got like, it's all 2 drops. I think I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 mana dorks. I've got a ton of ramp in here outside of just the 2-drop mana dorks.
Yeah.
But the one I wanted to point out is Intrepid Paleontologist. It's a 2 mana 2/2 human druid that taps for 1 mana of any color, and then for 2 mana I can exile a card from a graveyard, and then I can cast dinosaur creature spells from cards among exiled cards that were exiled with Intrepid Paleontologist. If I cast a spell this way, it ETBs with a finality counter. I think this is really interesting, specifically for standard legal commander. Obviously, with this deck, I synergize by having 4 super powerful top end.
You have some dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs, Vaultborn Tyrant. Vaultborn Tyrant. Tyrannix Rex, which is this is another insane card.
Yep.
Galta and Maverin, and then I also have the Mana Dork one, which I think is 4 mana. Yeah, Hulking Raptor, which is a 5/3 with Ward 2 for 4 mana. And at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, add 2 green mana. So this is it's basically like Sky Shroud Claim, kind of.
But dinosaur.
But it's a 5/3 creature with Ward 2.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just kind of a funky little dino. So
yeah, I'm here for it.
Despite not having access to stronger mana dorks, Intrepid Paleontologist has some utility outside of just being a dork. So kind of a fun card.
I like it.
But yeah, that's those are kind of the heavy hitters of this deck. This was a really fun experiment. I'm glad we got to build commander decks only using standard legal cards. I think it's a really interesting thought experiment, and definitely recommend that you guys try it. Just to step outside your comfort zone, step outside the arcane signets, the command towers that we're so used to putting in every single deck.
Yeah. Get creative with it, guys.
Yeah, get creative with it. And definitely, like I said, check out our Helga and Bruse Tarl decks. In the episode description, we have the deck list there to maybe get some inspiration or just check out kind of what we're cooking with here. And let us know what you think of them. All right, to wrap up the episode, we're going to do our classic Scryfall Random Spirit Creature of the Week with 1 free mulligan. And I think with today's episode being so focused around standard legal, let's Scryfall random until we hit a standard legal creature.
All right, deal.
And that'll be our spirit creature of the week. So
deal.
Let's see. And the tricky thing about this is we might hit something and it be like an older printing. So just check.
So
I'm just saying, just check up
standard.
top, because there might be a reprint in here that just sneaks past us. But we might be here for a second. We'll see.
Yeah, no kidding. I've hit like 4 different.
I always love doing this though, because you get to see, as we're doing this, we get to see, oh, I hit mine. Oh, it's a good one.
That is a good one.
It is an intense one too.
Yeah, what'd you get?
So, I'll lead off here with my spirit creature of the week, and boy, howdy, I hope this doesn't mean anything for my week, because it is Archfiend of the Dross, a 4 mana 6/6 flying black Phyrexian demon. Archfiend of the Dross enters the battlefield with 4 oil counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, remove an oil counter from Archfiend of the Dross. Then, if it has no oil counters on it, you lose the game. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, its controller loses 2 life. This is an intense card.
I hope this isn't an omen.
Yeah. But it is a cool card. The art is insane by Lee Setiowan. I believe that's how you pronounce their name. Yeah, it's funny. We were talking about proliferate, kind of not being like a non-thing.
Commander,
this is a card you throw in your Traxa proliferate deck.
Yeah, no kidding.
You definitely want to keep the oil counters on it, otherwise you lose.
Otherwise, you no longer in the game.
Yeah, you don't want to see this go up against a Glissa, which if Glissa hits you, you can take 3 counters off anything. So,
oh my gosh! Also, if I'm looking at this, it's a 4/6/6.
4/6/6 flyer, which with a little, whenever a creature opponent controls dies, its controller loses 2 life. So there's a lot to be tempted by in this card.
Good.
But the downside of just straight up losing the game, anytime you see a card with the words "you lose the game" printed on them, avoid them like the plague, because all of your opponents will figure out how to make that thing happen.
I like to live dangerously, though. I'm here for it.
Yeah, it's also got the really cool alternate Phyrexian art. I loved.
These were cool.
These were so cool, and all will be one. These kind of like watercolor-esque alternate arts. So, yeah, there's my spirit creature of the week, Archfiend of the Dross. Kind of intense one. What are you working with over there, Luke?
Cool. So I'm kind of stretching the rules a little bit here.
Okay.
I got a Scryfall random of a card that is not in standard, but will be very soon. I got
You
Land
gotta-
of War Elves.
You got perfect.
There you go.
Perfect.
I got Land of War Elves, which for the readers out there, you tap it to add 1 green to your mana pool. And the I got the printing that I have has the flavor text. 1 bone broken for every twig snapped underfoot. Land of War penalty for trespassing.
Which set is it from?
Oh, it is from Magic 2011.
Okay. Heck yeah. The flavor text for hold on. I think the flavor text for Foundations is new. Let me scroll back here real quick. I'm pretty sure that's really cool actually. So why don't you read us the brand new flavor text for Land of War Elves?
Sure.
Because we haven't seen new flavor text on this card in a minute, so it's kind of cool. Kind of sweet actually.
It says the elves of the Land of War Forest have defended it for generations. It is their sacred duty to keep outside influences from corrupting their ancestral home.
Perfect. I love that it's have defended for generations, and here we are seeing Land of War Elves return to standard.
Yep.
For the first time in what feels like generations.
Yeah.
So very suiting flavor text on this guy. So
I love it.
All right. Well, that's quite the difference between Land of War Elves and the Archfiend of the Dross.
Yeah, no kidding.
Two pretty different
A little
spirit
different.
creatures. But hey, you can use the Land of War Elves to ramp into the Archfiend of the Dross. So
There you go.
seems good.
There you go.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode. Be sure to answer this week's community question in the episode description, which is, would you give Standard Legal Commander a try? Lucan and I obviously recommend that you do.
Yeah.
But let us know what you think. Thanks to our sponsors. We currently have none. If you'd like to sponsor the show, please reach out to us via email at wilddogspodcast@gmail.com. Feel free to connect with us through Twitter or Instagram at wilddogspod, and over on Discord, which you were invited to in the episode description. Finally, as always, thanks to Johnny Bartlett for creating the intro and outro music. Until next time, Wild Dogs out.
Thanks, everyone.
Magic the Gathering. Gathering magic with my friends. Playing cool cards all the time. Tutoring love